Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us on this second day of August 2018 for Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first, fire danger down from what it was yesterday. Lost the extreme up here in the Yukon Flats, and even the high has shrunk a little bit there due to clouds and some areas of light precipitation that fell during the day today. Even the Tanana Valley here, central and around Fairbanks area, just an area of high fire danger now, and areas of high fire danger along the north slopes of the eastern Alaska Range over Delta on down toward Tok, where they were about 72 degrees this afternoon. Still a narrow area of extreme fire danger in the Copper River Basin, and still some high fire danger over the northern Panhandle. Juneau was getting rain this afternoon, but it was kind of windy, or was windy, up toward Haines and Skagway with winds gusting 20 to 30 miles an hour this afternoon. That kept it kind of on the high side there since they hadn't reported any precipitation yet. Otherwise, what was back to the west is gone now, especially with the moderate amounts of rain, moderate to possibly heavy amounts have come across the southwest interior areas and sliding on down into southern Cook Inlet. On satellite imagery, we've got low pressure, upper level low, both at the surface and aloft, pushing off to the southeast here, and that'll be moving into the western Gulf of Alaska this evening and overnight tonight, or southwest Gulf. So that brought areas of rain from Kodiak on up into south central Alaska, much of the southwest, western interior, central interior, on back up to the Brooks Range. Saw rainfall today, and even some areas of rain here up north from the White Mountain areas and over the upper Yukon Valley and areas, but sunshine did break out, as well as the southeast coast, seeing areas of rain actually pushing in to the Sitka area this afternoon. Not so much down to the south, but there were more clouds than what the imagery is showing up here. And then Juneau picking up some rain this afternoon, rain areas of along the North Gulf Coast on up into Prince William Sound. And then a little bit of a break here. Dry conditions, Pribilofs, Alaska Peninsula, a few showers around the eastern Aleutians, mostly from this moisture associated with the warm front. And the next system back out here to the west, warm front extending back up, low center still off the chart there. And then a band of clouds up here along the Brooks Range associated with a trough, actually a stationary front up in that area, separating the chillier air out along the Arctic coast from the somewhat milder air, or the milder air by comparison, down over the interior. And on the chart here we've got that front line roughly in a position something like that, right along the Brooks Range, more or less there. Rainfall amounts anywhere from 500 to maybe 1/10 of an inch or so, 1500s possibly, but Howard Pass picked up 1/3 of an inch in the 12-hour period ending at 3 p.m. this afternoon. Thunderstorm activity mostly into Canada, or all into Canada. I hadn't seen any strikes again through 3 p.m. and scattered showers, eastern interior, lots of clouds though, heavier precipitation back here to the west, 4 to 6/10 of an inch falling today in the Kamishak Bay area from Seldovia up across Homer, and even the southern coast of the Kenai Peninsula, one reporting station picked up 7/10 today, and rainfall from Kodiak with this low center. Another low center brought a fair amount of rain, 1/2 inch to 7/10 or 3/4 here over the Yukon Kuskokwim Delta area. St. Mary's picking up 7/10 of an inch, for example, this afternoon. Trailing edge of this cold front kept a few showers, some clouds in over the eastern Aleutians. Kind of hard to tell. And then this warm front spreading some rain and drizzle into the Atka Adak area, not all that heavy, but that increases out towards Shemya with the winds picking up, gusts to 40 miles an hour at Shemya out of the southwest with rain, drizzle, and fog. And then moisture on the increase here again along the coastal areas of the Panhandle. And not so much up to about Juneau, and that's about it. And then just cloudy skies down to the south. For tonight, that front will rotate around, and as the low pushes eastward here, southerly and southeast flow increases, especially over the eastern Gulf of Alaska, and eventually into the Panhandle. So look for showers to increase over the southern areas tonight. Increasing chances of rain will continue this evening into tonight, all the way northward there to Skagway. Might be in a break there over the Yakutat area, but definitely a chance of rain along the North Gulf Coast, Kenai Peninsula, into Cook Inlet, southern Cook Inlet, Kodiak, trending to taper off as flow becomes more northwest with a low pulling eastward. Starts to dry out here. Drier pattern coming up for the southwest interior, just scattering out the isolated showers and possible clearing over the Yukon Delta. That same pattern, variably cloudy up to the northwest interior areas. This front weakening, just a trough now, but still some leftover moisture in the form of showers, areas of light rain, North Slope, Brooks Range area, heaviest onto the east here. Maybe some drizzle and fog along the Arctic coast. Otherwise, that's where the IFR will be, and not so much on the east side with offshore flow. Should be marginal to VFR there for the western part of the coastline. Next system, warm front rains spread into the Pribilof Islands. That means IFR with fog. Now it'll be slipping on down here with wind becoming west-northwest, pulling that into the eastern Aleutians, but those amounts will be light, a little bit heavier up toward the Pribilofs, and pretty windy here out over the western Aleutians, possible gusts maybe 40-45 miles an hour with that, especially in advance of the front there, keeping it wet out over the western Aleutian area. Is looking at forecast for tomorrow. Really widespread clearing starts to break out here over the southwest interior up to Norton Sound and across the Nulato Hills. Decreasing clouds in the afternoon. This is an afternoon map here showing could be still some showers around south central Alaska, the Kenai Peninsula, Copper River Basin early in the day. That's all improving throughout the afternoon, increasing sunshine. Mostly sunny for Kodiak Island, northwest winds, pretty gusty to start the day with, but diminishing into the afternoon hours. And for the Panhandle, winds on the increase here, because you see some gale force winds in advance of that front, and it will start to edge in toward the coastline tomorrow, but along with the heavier amounts of rain, will be along the central and south coast in toward Dixon Entrance. Lighter amounts, but still cloudy and wet up to the north, Juneau to Skagway. Some of that, rain into Yakutat, but again, decreasing showers even over the Wrangell Mountains in the afternoon, but not so much up north of the mountains, staying pretty wet and cloudy for the Tanana Valley. 40-mile country back up to the eastern Brooks Range, across the upper Yukon Valley, so I'll continue to knock back whatever fire danger is left in those areas. And drier, though, back toward the Arctic coast with just drizzle and fog in areas. And this rain begins to push in toward Nunivak Island for tomorrow afternoon, toward Makoriak, St. Lawrence Island. Pretty good bet you'll see some rain at Gamble, maybe Savunga in the latter part of the afternoon. Breezy with showers in the Aleutians, pretty scattered though, and then a narrow band of rain back with that front farther to the west. And then on Saturday, it looks like that whole system kind of reshifts back out to up to the northwest, with light rain again coming back in toward Nunivak Island on Saturday. Not a bad day here for the Seward Peninsula and even the Selawik Valley, Kotzebue area. Not too bad. Maybe some clearing on the western North Slope. Isolated showers, western Brooks Range, that's about it. But still wet here over the eastern Tanana Valley from the upper Yukon southward across the 40-mile country into the Copper River Basin there. Looks like periods of rain, clouds, mostly cloudy, south central Alaska, Cook Inlet area. Chance of showers now, central Susitna Valley up toward the pass. Isolated showers here along the Alaska Peninsula with sunshine along the lee side of the terrain there for the along the coast, Sandpoint, Chignik. Kodiak looking pretty good. Maybe partly sunny for Homer. Lots of moisture, breezing conditions with that next front that's holding back out over the Aleutians. The Panhandle, this system continues to slide southeastward. So it looks like that's going to, this front will slowly weaken and go with it, so you won't actually see the front pushing inland, but it'll still be close enough to keep a chance of rain along the south coast, roughly from Port Alexander, maybe Mount Edgecombe on down across Prince of Wales Island. Still a chance of rain in the afternoon, but just a chance, and maybe some showers, possible clearing, but I wouldn't look for a lot of clearing over the central Panhandle. Showers up to the north, and then of course with this trough, kind of upper trough, keeping it wet over the Copper River Basin areas from the North Gulf Coast. Back to the north-northwest, and I mentioned Partly mostly sunny there for the Seward Peninsula and west central interior. And for the low temperatures for tonight, not much colder than what you're seeing now. At 3 p.m., Barter Island is carrying 30 degrees Fahrenheit there with Barrow at 35. So it looks like the lows won't drop too much more, right around the lower 30s. Milder back to the west, mid-50s there around Kotzebue, and 50 to 55 over the northeast interior. Lower 50s, Tanana Valley, mid-40s Copper River Basin, and mostly in the lower 50s South Central Alaska, mid to upper 50s for the Panhandle, and near 50 out over the Aleutians, but upper 40s for the Pribilofs on up to St. Lawrence Island. And then for the highs tomorrow, again, increasing sunshine with the downslope flow off the Alaska Range. Should pop into the lower 70s in the Susitna Valley tomorrow afternoon with possible 70-degree temperatures down into Anchorage and the Kenai Peninsula. A little bit slower, but still could pop up towards 70 depending on how soon the clouds clear out over the Copper River Basin. And 60s, lower 70s, warmest here over toward Eagle. Mostly in the 60s though. Could see 70 as far west as possibly Tanana, Fairbanks, and 40s for the North Slope and Arctic Coast, 50s for the Brooks Range, lower 50s for the Aleutians and Bering Sea, and it looks like 60, 65 for the southeast coast. And then for the highs on Saturday, or I'm sorry, for the lows Saturday morning, we've got mid to upper 50s there for the southeast coast, mid 30s for the Arctic coast and North Slope areas, lower 50s in the central interior to lower 50s down in toward Bristol Bay with upper 40s there over the over the Pribilofs, mid 40s for St. Lawrence Island. High temperatures back possibly in the lower 70s, most like we'll see tomorrow, 65 to 70 through the central interior. Lower 70s maybe for the Copper River Basin, Susitna Valley about the same, 65 to 70, and 60s in the Panhandle.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
First flying weather graphic Friday morning. Some marginal VFR mostly over the east side here from Copper River Basin, Prince William Sound, as well as Kenai Peninsula, Cook Inlet, all the way up to the eastern Arctic coast. You hit on the coastline some IFR, central, and sort of some of the west coast there. Nothing but IFR out in the Bering Sea to the Aleutians here, actually Fox Islands included. Pretty sharp with northwest winds there. The IFR will be banked up along the north shores there, even the Alaska Peninsula with VFR on the lee side. And for the afternoon, we'll see the southeast coast here, marginal VFR across the area, IFR down toward the Dixon entrance area, IFR off the coast covering the Gulf of Alaska, VFR Kodiak Island, northwest winds drying it out there into the southern interior, marginal VFR, White Mountains, Koyukuk Valley, eastern Brooks Range, North Slope, IFR along the Arctic eastern Beaufort Sea coast, but off the coast back to the west, IFR, no change out here over the Bering Sea. Some of that IFR pushing in farther into Bristol Bay and to the Yukon Delta coast to St. Lawrence Island. And then for Saturday morning, really not a lot of change here, kind of some marginal VFR now along the southwest coast, IFR in across Bristol Bay. Staying VFR south side of the Alaska Peninsula and even the eastern Aleutians, IFR central North Slope on out to the central and eastern Beaufort Sea coast, VFR over a good portion of the interior. Kobuk Valley looks like in the marginal zone for the morning, and IFR right along the southeast coast, otherwise marginal inland, and that doesn't change a whole lot into the afternoon, except it becomes VFR here over the southern Panhandle. Marginal eastern side, Wrangell Mountains, eastern North Gulf coast, up into the 40-mile country in Tanana Valley, but VFR South Central Alaska for Saturday afternoon, much of the western interior, no change along the Arctic coast, really not a lot of change out west as well. Taking a look at passes individually, Anaktuvik, marginal VFR, same forecast for Adigan, occasionally marginal, actually for both occasionally. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, improving trend starting out marginal, becoming VFR into the afternoon. Same trend for rainy, lowest conditions early on, becoming VFR. Same forecast for windy. Isabel trending better throughout the day to VFR. Mentasta, VFR the entire day. And for Tanita, could possibly start out marginal VFR. That'd be early in the day, and it'll become VFR probably late in the morning at the latest throughout the afternoon. And for Portage, same trend. Marginal becomes VFR Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR all day long on Friday. And for the freezing levels here, 10,000 feet, southeast coast there, of a little bit cooler here through the central interior at about 8,000 feet, right down across Kodiak Island. And then much chillier air up there north of the Brooks Range, 2,000 feet there for the central Arctic coast. And then warming back up considerably here out over the southern Bering Sea and Aleutians, 14,000 feet or better. And for icing, above about 5,000 here, isolated areas of moderate rime icing up there for the Brooks Range on out toward the eastern Arctic coast. And above 9, maybe 10,000 feet before you hit any icing with the warm air aloft here. But if you do, that'd be considerable areas of moderate here in the orange shaded areas across the southeast coast as that upper level low drops into the southwest Gulf, and southerly flow pulls a lot of moisture right up into the area. And looking at the jet stream, this upper level low today is this one back up through here. By tomorrow it'll be in about this position. That'll increase southerly flow there into the Panhandle. Northwest flow drying it out back to the west here. This upper low coming into the western Arctic coast, 70-knot westerlies right across the Seward Peninsula, ridging out here over the Bering Sea, and then followed by a southwest jet about 130 knots. 9,000-foot winds coming over the top of this ridge, pretty brisk, 40 to 50 knots here right in toward the south of the Pribilofs. Northwest 45 to 50, Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians. Kodiak, strongest winds earlier on. As that slowly moves off, then it'll diminish in the afternoon. Pretty light over the interior. Strong winds along the southeast coast, edging their way eastward and northward throughout the day. 3,000 feet, you see 45 knots there right off Port Alexander to Sitka, but much lighter, only 10 over the inland areas. And looking at turbulence, moderate chop there developing in the afternoon for the southern southeast coast, along the coast, lee side of the Alaska Peninsula, and also out over the western Aleutians, a little bumpy. And after the marine forecast, or after the break, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
Summer meteor shower. Hey there, stargazers. I'm Dehne Regas, astronomer for the Cincinnati Observatory.
And I'm James Alberry, director of the Kika Silva Pla Planetarium in Gainesville, Florida. We've got good news and some even better news. The good news is that the Perseid meteor shower, traditionally the best meteor shower of the year, will peak Wednesday night, August 12th through Thursday morning, August 13th.
But the even better news is that the moon will be out of the picture during the peak, meaning we'll have extra dark skies for watching the Perseids this year.
Get prepared because we're going to share our tips and tricks for observing a meteor shower.
The best time to look for the Perseid meteor shower is late at night on the 12th of August and into the early morning of the 13th.
Here's rule number 1. Hope it's clear, because if it's cloudy or raining, you won't see any meteors at all.
Rule number 2, get as far away from city lights as possible, because even though you may see a handful of the brightest meteors from city locations, the city lights flood the sky with so much sky glow that nowadays many of the meteors in a meteor shower are hidden from view.
Rule number 3, observe while lying on the ground, on a blanket, or in a lawn chair. In other words, keep looking up. No telescopes and no binoculars are needed.
Rule number 4, stay outside for at least a couple of hours, preferably after midnight, and have plenty of patience.
If you follow these rules, you can expect to see several meteors per hour, and maybe many more. Simply lie back and constantly scan the sky, and usually, when you least expect it, a meteor or even two will zip across the sky.
Now, although some astronomy websites will tell you that you may see 60 meteors per hour, which would boil down to about 1 a minute, meteors really don't operate on a time schedule. You may see 10 of them in 2 minutes and then have to wait like 20 minutes to see another one. But that's the fun of it, because each meteor is a total surprise.
Okay, we've got our skies set up for the usual peak time to view, August 13th after midnight. About halfway up from the horizon, you'll see the W shape of Cassiopeia. Look a little below Cassiopeia, and that's where the meteors will appear to originate, the constellation Perseus.
I know that it is really early, but the meteor shower will be at its best before dawn on the 13th.
Wonder why they're called the Perseids? Well, meteor showers are named for the constellation from where the meteors appear to originate. But what exactly is a meteor? Let's take you out into space and explain.
Meteors are the flashes of light we see when tiny specks of space debris slam into our Earth's atmosphere and light up. You see, every time a comet visits our sun, it sheds tons of debris, and eventually this stuff gets spread out along the comet's path.
If our Earth plows into this path, these tiny pieces of comet litter will slam into our Earth's atmosphere, traveling many miles per second. The particles themselves are far too small to be seen, but the friction of these particles hitting the air causes the air surrounding them to heat up, and you see streaks of light.
And we call these streaks of light meteors, or incorrectly, falling stars. The meteors we see during the Percy meteor shower each August are debris from a comet named Swift-Tuttle.
And our Earth plows through its debris field about the same time every August. The Perseid meteor shower is one of the oldest recorded meteor showers in history and has been seen every August for over 2,000 years. Now, let me remind you of the single most important rule for observing a meteor shower, which is you must constantly scan the sky and have patience. You may not see meteors for 20 minutes or so, and then, all of a sudden, 2 or 3 may flash by all at once.
But each time you see a Perseid streak across the sky, remind yourself that what you're actually seeing is a tiny comet piece igniting your night. Keep looking up.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at today's sea ice analysis, really thinning out there around Wrangell Island and the main ice edge pulling up to the north, and also thinning out pretty well north and even to the south here along the coast of this multi-year heavier ice pack that's just sitting to the north there, but comes on down to the east side right up to the coastline. And continuation of this slow melting, thinning trend for the next several days. And for the southeast coast, gale warnings 35 to 40 knots, mostly 40 knots, turning east 40 up here in the North Gulf, eastern North Gulf coast. Gales developing into Clarence Strait throughout the afternoon, and 30 knots for Stevens Passage, but just 10 knots for Lynn Canal, all out of the southeast. And for Saturday, gale force winds hold that front hanging close enough, slowly weakening, but looks like still minimum gales possible here for the south coast. Small craft advisories to the north, those seas 14 feet here on the south coast. Gales continue in the forecast there for Clarence Strait, southeast 35, 25 Stevens Passage, staying light for Lynn Canal. Prince William Sound tomorrow, winds out of the north increasing to 25 knots, seas 6 feet, or at 25 knots. And northeast 40 for the North Gulf Coast. Full gales there, 13-foot seas, north 40 for the Barren Islands, and northwest 25, Kamishak Bay. Cook Inlet, northerlies 15 to 20, strongest south of the Forelands, where seas will be 5 feet. And then for Saturday, switching around, southerlies 10 to 15 for Cook Inlet, and west 25, small craft advisories, Kamishak Bay, northwest at 20, there for the Barrens. Much lighter winds now for the North Gulf Coast, northeast 20 on the east side, and back here to the west even lighter, northwest 15. Northwest 15 for Prince William Sound for the first day of the weekend with seas at 2 feet. And for Kodiak Island on the east side, north 40, slowly diminishing in the afternoon, but 40 knots out for tomorrow, and north 25, Shelikof Strait. Northwest gales at least early in the day here from Sitkinak over to Castle Cape, and 25 to 30 knot west-northwest for the Alaska Peninsula. Bristol Bay, northwest at 25. And the outlook for Saturday, we've got northwest 25, so small craft advisories on the east side of Kodiak Island, southwest 20, Shelikof Strait. Sitkinak to Castle Cape here, northwest 20, west-southwest 25 for the Alaska Peninsula, Bristol Bay west at 20, and those seas at 7 feet. For the western Aleutians, that next system and the front approaching there, so gale force winds out of the south, 35 knots, 17-foot seas. southwest 30 there to the east. The small craft advisories all the way here across Atka Island, mostly out of the southwest, 25 to 30 seas, 10 feet. And for the Fox Islands, we've got west-southwest, but mostly west to 25 with seas 8 to 10 feet. Outlook for Saturday, small craft advisory, southwest 25 here for the eastern Aleutians, 8 to 10 foot seas continue, south to southwest at 30 knots for Adak and Atka, and then southerly 30 knot winds all the way out to Attu Island. And for the southwest coast, small craft advisories here, south of Nunivak Island, northwest 25, southwest 20 with 9 foot seas for the Pribilofs, and southeast 15 St. Matthew Island, and north to northwest 15 St. Lawrence Island area and Norton Sound. And for Saturday, east at 20 there for St. Lawrence Island, south 20 north of Nunivak Island, west 20 south of Nunivak Island. Small craft advisories for the Pribilofs with seas now at 12 feet. Excuse me, for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, tomorrow east 15 to 20 on a little breezy there on the east side, and then lighter on the central coast, and then picking back up out of the northeast here, 20 knots, Cape Beaufort, all the way down to Wales. We've got north to northeasterlies, small craft advisories, 25 seas at 7 feet. And those drop off on Sunday here for the southeast, or for the Chukchi Sea up to Cape Beaufort, north 10 to 15 to the Bering Strait, and northwest 15. Central and west side, eastern Beaufort Sea coast, east winds at 15 knots. And for tonight, again, we got this system sliding southeastward into the western Gulf of Alaska later tonight after midnight to about this position at about 3 a.m. tomorrow morning or 4 a.m. with rain beginning to diminish Kodiak Island, definitely drying out over the southwest interior. Wind and rain on the increase here for the Panhandle tonight. Mostly cloudy, showery eastern interior. A little more numerous showers of that trough up to the north. Next system pushing eastward into the western Bering Sea with the gale force winds for tomorrow. They're back with the main frontal boundary. Warm front rains could actually reach the eastern Aleutians. Stays wet up over the upper Tanana Valley. Sunshine in the southwest. Have a good evening.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.